Hi readers, welcome back to Reading Realm. Before we get into today's review, I'm just going to start with some channel business. I have enough books that I've read that I can review, and I have so many on my goal to read for this year that I've decided I'm going to try and post 3 times a month instead of only 2, and based on a poll that I offered to viewers, it's been decided that they will be on Saturdays, so it's probably going to be the first 3 Saturdays of every month. Here and there, if I can fit in an extra, I might, or if I have a book for a specific event, I might. I think the only one that really fits that I've talked about doing on my list that I want to read this year is The Nightmare Before Christmas. Could be either a Christmas video or a Halloween video. But starting with this video, videos will be out the first 3 Saturdays of the month. And the other condition with that is, as I've talked about, I am a university student, and I am working on finishing up school this year, so things might get a little crazy, but for now that's my goal. Anyway, recently I received a request to review A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and that is not this review because I do have that book. I'm this far through it. It's really interesting so far. But when I got that book, I ended up getting the whole series, including Killjoy, which is today's review. This is a prequel novella to the main trilogy. Hi, Cosmos is coming in. He heard me start this video and he said, I want attention. Here he is. He likes to come in as soon as I start recording things for both of my channels. Anyway, Killjoy was really interesting because after I received the request to review A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, I went out and got the series, but I really had no idea what it was about at all. And so this book was kind of not what I was expecting it to be. It's basically about a murder mystery party, which is like entirely normal murder mystery party among friends. Like nothing actually happens. I don't know. Especially with the cover, like you can kind of see it's very bloody, which, you know, it makes sense for that to be the case during a murder mystery party, but it was definitely, I kept expecting something to actually happen that wasn't just part of the game. But it's a really interesting book, especially because I didn't know anything about the other series yet. Because I believe that this was published after the other books in the series. Okay, that's 2022, and then this one is 2019. Yeah, so this actually came out after, so I think a lot of the readers were kind of already aware of what world this was taking place in, and for me, I had no idea. But this is a good book. It's like interesting even as a standalone because I didn't really know anything about it going into it, but I was still enjoying it. I pretty much binge read the whole thing. It's short. So especially it's a novella, but you can see it's a lot shorter than the other one. But even though it's a game and it isn't real the way a lot of the Natasha Preston books that I've reviewed are, it's still very interesting because you get so wrapped up in the story, and it's even the character at first is skeptical. She's like, I don't want to do this, like I want to stay at home and work on homework because she's really about being on top of academic stuff, and she has a project and stuff, which if you read this book, that this is her project. All of this is about her project. But basically she's like reluctantly going because her friends are doing it and it's summer break and they want to do it and have fun and she wants to be part of it. But she gets so invested in it and starts to take it so seriously. And it kind of makes the reader do the same thing, where there are times where it's written intentionally this way, but you start to forget that it is a game, and you're like, what just happened? Oh my gosh. But then overall it is always just a game, and it's a little bit confusing at first, and again, this is where I feel like if I had maybe read the main series first, I might have had less confusion just because I was learning all the characters' names, because all of the characters they have their name, and then they have the name that the character that they're playing in the game is named. And so there were a few times where I was like, hang on, wait, who said what? But overall, yeah, it's really fun. There are like all these little notes in it and all this different sort of plot things about trying to find clues and trying to keep things from other people and all of that. And I think it's really well written, because I feel like sometimes with novellas and or prequels, and particularly prequel novellas, sometimes they're written in such a way where it's like you have to have read the thing that it's connected to really understand who the people are, or like what's happening, what the world is. That this one isn't like that at all. You can read it before the other series and it's totally fine. Like, you're not gonna be lost, because this is very separate from at least the first book. Like I said, I'm only this far through it. I'm getting close. I'm like halfway, a little past halfway, but you can definitely read this without having to rely on the other books in the series, which is nice if you want just a really fast, lightweight book to carry around, especially because it's the way that it ends. It definitely does lead into the main series directly, but it doesn't end it in such a way where it's like, I have to start this next book immediately now. Like, it depends. It kind of did for me, but I already had the book available, so it was easy to just grab it. But it isn't like a huge cliffhanger where it forces you to start reading the other ones. If you want to just read this as a standalone, so far, from what I've read of this other one, it's good. So I think I recommend reading the whole series, probably. It is definitely kind of interesting having read this and now reading the other to kind of see the parallels and how the game in this inspired what takes place in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And I'm trying to avoid talking too much about that one in this video because we're talking about Killjoy right now. But it is definitely really interesting seeing how what happens in this influences kind of how she behaves and what she decides to do on her project in the other book. And it is definitely interesting too because this one, it focuses so much on her friends. I believe it's 5 of her friends and one of her friends' brothers. I think that's how the math works. And it's really interesting because you would expect all of those friends to be really prominent in the main series, and they're actually really not. Like, they're mentioned and stuff. But overall, her interaction in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder so far has been with a different person that only appears in, like, the very last page of this. There is a scene that involves all of the friends that are in this, that are in A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. But it's very interesting because it's definitely, I think, even more because those characters aren't super heavily involved in the first one of the main series. It definitely does feel more like a standalone thing where you don't have to rely on knowing those kind of friends dynamics already. Also, it's just it is really interesting after reading so much Natasha Preston to read a book that is really murder themed, but also not at all actual stakes of being murdered. Because it is a game the whole time, and it's also just really interesting how I kind of can see the dynamic of this in groups that I've played games with before, where it's definitely like that one person who's like, I don't really want to be here, and then those people who get so invested and are just, hi, Cosmos is chewing on a toy and getting fluff in his mouth. But you can definitely see that dynamic of if you have a friend group where you play games together and someone's like, I don't want to be here, I want to be doing something else, but then they get super invested in it, because that's definitely what happens in this. And he's unplugging my computer, Cosmos. That's fine, it's a laptop, it's got charge. But this computer has just a little magnet plug because it's a Mac, and so he walks through the cord and immediately pulls it out. But anyway, this is really, really fun to read. It's definitely lighthearted because it is a game and it doesn't have like the same stakes as what's going on in this one or some of the other mysteries that I've read. It kind of makes me want to do a murder mystery party. I've never done it before. I definitely have friends that I play games with and do role play type stuff with. But in like D&D, I haven't played D&D in so long because being in school takes all my time, and running these channels takes all my time, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of that, of like meeting for a session and doing stuff and covering stuff, and so I feel like it would be really fun. I don't really know who I'd do it with or how to set one up if I were to set one up, but it makes me want to, because it's really fun. But I think it's definitely worth reading if you're into that kind of thing, especially if you want kind of like a beginner murder mystery type book, because I know sometimes murder mysteries can get really heavy or really intense, especially if you're not used to that genre very much. This one's good because it has that kind of suspense and those sort of like needing to be a detective, but also like having to try and protect your own secrets and stuff, but without the stakes of actually encountering a murderer. So I definitely think that this one, it wasn't what I was expecting, but it was really good. And as I've said, I am a little over halfway through A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I have been reading so much this year so far. It's January 31st because I need to record this tonight, get it up for tomorrow since I'm switching the schedule around. But I've already finished 4 or 5 books this year in only a month. And I still have some that I finished last year that I need to finish recording and uploading. So anyway, these books I get through so fast because they just pull me in and then I can't stop reading them. So that is the one warning. It is a little bit addicting. It's hard to put that one down. So if you have a class early in the morning or work early in the morning or other responsibilities early in the morning, maybe don't start reading this right before bed. But other than that, I fully recommend this book. It's really, really fun, like the whole atmosphere of it. But it still has that element of suspense and tension, and mystery and all of that. So if you have read that, please let me know what you thought of it. And I will try to get the other books in the series reviewed soon once I finish them, because I know at least one person wants to see those, so I will try to get that up soon. But for now, let me know what you're reading this year and how many books you've finished so far in 2025, and keep reading. Bye!